Daedalus and Icarus, the story of the Athenian Daedalus, a most skillful artisan of ancient Greece, an architect, sculptor, and inventor, and of his son Icarus. This is a legend about one of man's earliest attempts to fly. When King Minos of Crete learned that the Athenian hero Theseus had escaped from the labyrinth, he flew into a great rage and ordered that the builder Daedalus be brought before him.
Ha! You, Daedalus! You call yourself an architect? Bah! Theseus and the Athenians have managed to escape from the labyrinth you contrived for me. Those winding passages and turnings should have been escape-proof, yet they found their way out. Only you, Daedalus, could have helped them. Therefore, in punishment for having failed me, your king, you and your son Icarus shall be imprisoned for the rest of your lives. Guards, take him away. See that Daedalus is shut away in his own labyrinth, and his son with him. I never want to set eyes on them again.
Having lost favor with King Minos, Daedalus and Icarus were shut away within the roofless maze. But the brilliant Daedalus was not at a loss. Cautiously, carefully, he planned their escape.
I cannot endure this harsh treatment. To be locked away while the birds wheel freely overhead. Icarus, I must be free, and so must you, my son. Listen now. Here is my plan.
Whereupon Daedalus told Icarus of his most unusual scheme, his plan for their escape. Then secretly he began to fabricate two sets of wings, one set for himself and another set for Icarus, fashioning them like the wings of a great bird, setting the small feathers first and then adding larger ones as he wrought each wing's surface. The larger feathers he secured with thread, while the smaller ones were secured with wax. When the work was done, the wings had the same gentle curvature as the wings of birds. Daedalus was proud of his handiwork.
There now. The wings are finished, Icarus. And beautiful indeed, if I must say so myself. Minos may rule the land and the sea, but he is not king of the air. We will make our escape by air, Icarus. Come now, put on the wings.
Icarus tried the wings, and they fit him perfectly. Then Daedalus said,
Fine, my son. The wings are ready. But we are not as yet. First I must try my wings. Then I will teach you to fly. Come. Help me to fasten them.
Daedalus fastened the big wings on his arms and launched himself in a moving current of air, beating his wings up and down in a steady rhythm as he had seen the birds do. It worked, and Daedalus was carried upward into the air like a huge bird in flight. Yes, the wings were a success. They would enable him and Icarus to escape. Then Daedalus taught Icarus how to fly in the same manner, much as parent birds encourage their young to fly. He also bade him to watch the birds, to note their graceful movements as they soared and glided overhead, pointing out the sweep of their wings as they beat the air slowly and steadily. Then, when all was in readiness for the escape flight, Daedalus gave his son the final instructions.
Icarus, yes, father. Remember not to fly too high or too low. You must stay at a moderate height, for if you fly too low, the dampness will weigh down your wings, and if you fly too high, the heat of the sun will melt them. So stay near me, son. Keep close, and you will be safe.
Father, I will.
The hands of Daedalus trembled as he fastened the wings to his son's body, for he realized that their lives depended on the success of the flight. Then he kissed the boy, saying,
We go now, my boy. Remember what I have taught you, and may the gods smile upon us, Icarus.
Daedalus took flight first, rising swiftly on his great wings. Then Icarus followed his father. First, they flew across the land, testing the wings before setting out on their long journey across the sea. Daedalus looked back to see how his son was faring, and to make sure the lad was safe. As he did so, a plowman and a shepherd witnessed the strange sight from the ground below.
Hey! You there, shepherd! Look above! You see what I see?
Aye, good plowman. I see. It is the gods themselves, for surely no mortal could ever soar thus in the air.
Perhaps we shall be richly blessed for having looked upon them. Ooh! See how swiftly they fly!
Aye. Already they vanish from our sight, brother.
The plowman was right. Swiftly the two strange birdmen flew on, out over the sea. Exhilarated with his new power and sense of freedom, Icarus stretched forth his wings and gradually drew away from Daedalus, soaring upward and upward. Forgetting his father's advice and intoxicated with his new sense of freedom from the earth, Icarus continued to fly higher and higher, dangerously approaching the sun. Thrilled with the wind on his face and the clear air above and below him, Icarus made a new burst of speed, going up into the blue sky, as if he would reach heaven itself. Alas, poor Icarus. The heat of the blazing sun beat down on his wings and softened the wax which held the feathers together. Soon the wax was melting. The wings were coming apart. Icarus began to fall to earth, for no longer could the wings support him in the air.
Father! Help me! I'm falling! Father! Help!
Poor, hapless Icarus. Helplessly he flailed the air, but to no avail. Down he plummeted, calling on his father to help him. Even as he called upon his father for aid, Icarus fell headlong into the sea and was drowned. The blue waters of the sea closed over him. Henceforth it would be called after him, the Icarian Sea. Meanwhile, Daedalus, noticing that Icarus no longer was close by, called and called his son.
Icarus! My son, where are you? Icarus! Icarus! Icarus!
But there was no answer, and though he searched and searched, Daedalus could find no trace of Icarus. Gone was his joy in his new achievement flight, in his successful escape from Minos. Again and again Daedalus called.
Icarus! Where are you? Icarus! Answer me, Icarus!
But there was nothing but the sound of his own voice and the cries of the gulls. Nothing else. Swooping swiftly, Daedalus went still lower in his flight, searching for his son. Crazed with anxiety and with fear clutching his heart, He scanned the waters below him, and there at last he had his answer. He discovered the fallen feathers floating on the water, and Daedalus knew then that his son was lost to him forever.
Oh, my son, my boy. It was my own hand that brought you to your untimely death. Woe to the skill, my skill, that dealt you this tragic fate. Icarus, my son, my son.
Bitterly lamenting his victory over the air, which had resulted in his son's death, Daedalus recovered the body of Icarus. Gently he gathered the boy in his arms and flew toward land with his burden, the tips of his wings drooping over the water. Broken-hearted, Daedalus wept bitterly as he buried Icarus, calling the land Icaria in his memory, and mourning his bird-like son who had forgotten his father's advice and thrown caution to the winds. After the death of Icarus, Daedalus went to Sicily, where he was welcomed and befriended by the Sicilian king, King Cocculus. There, Daedalus built a temple to the sun god Apollo. In it he placed the wings he himself had worn on the tragic flight as an offering to the god Apollo. The death of Icarus is reported by both Ovid and Apollodorus, but perhaps more movingly told in these lines by Erasmus Darwin. With melting wax and loosened strings sunk hapless Icarus on unfaithful wings. Headlong he rushed through the affrighted air, with limbs distorted and disheveled hair. His scattered plumage danced upon the wave, and sorrowing Nereids decked his watery grave. O'er his pale corse their pearly sea flowers shed, and strewed with crimson moss his marble bed. Struck in their coral towers the passing bell, and wide in ocean tolled his echoing knell. And what of King Minos? Knowing his pride in his own craftsmanship, Minos devised a cunning plan to recapture Daedalus. He issued a special proclamation.
Hear ye! Hear ye! Minos, king of Crete, doth proclaim a handsome reward to whomever can thread an intricately spiraled conch shell. Hear ye! Hear ye! A handsome reward will go to anyone.
When news of the proclamation reached Sicily, Daedalus told King Cocculus that he could accomplish this feat. Daedalus then bored a small hole at the closed end of a conch shell. Fastening a fine thread to an ant, he placed the ant into the hole he had bored and closed the hole again, with but the tiniest opening for the thread. Once inside the shell, the ant found its way through all its twistings and turnings and soon came out at the other end. The shell was threaded. Daedalus then released the ant, leaving the thread running through the shell. When the king of Sicily sent the threaded shell to King Minos, Minos knew at once where Daedalus was living. Ha-ha! Aha! Only Daedalus could have done it. I have found him at last. I shall go to Sicily and seize him. Revenge will be mine. So Minos went to Sicily, But the Sicilian king liked Daedalus and refused to surrender him to Minos. Besides, Daedalus already had built a splendid new palace for King Cocculus, with running water in the baths, an unheard of luxury in those times, and the king was loath to have a man with such talent leave him. Thus Cocculus protected the fugitive Daedalus by a clever ruse. He invited King Minos to his palace for a great feast. Then, as a customary honor accorded to distinguished visitors, he invited King Minos to enjoy the ingenious new bath that Daedalus had designed. When King Minos entered the bath, the water was turned on and out it gushed, boiling hot, scalding King Minos to death. Thus ended the life of the king of Crete. As for Daedalus, he remained in Sicily and enjoyed the favor of King Cocculus for the rest of his days. Being a fine craftsman, and having descended from the craftsman god Hephaestus, Daedalus used his ingenuity and skill to train others. One of his students was a nephew, Perdix, who is credited with having invented the saw and the first drawing compass. Daedalus became something of a patron saint of craftsmen, and many, including the great philosopher Socrates, are said to have proudly claimed descent from him. Yet never did he cease to mourn for his son Icarus, and never again did he attempt to fly.